Mobile gaming! I don't know. Okay, so I know it's been a while since my last devlog, but there's a good reason for that. Like I said in my last devlog, I started working on the Android port for Little Cherry's Tree, and for the past 2 to 3 months, that's all I've been working on. I originally thought this wouldn't take that long to do. I mean, the foundation for the game's already there, so it shouldn't be that hard to port to Android. Well, yes, but also no. While the core gameplay is finished, there's a lot of other features that I needed to work on, such as having virtual buttons and making sure they work properly, making a sleek pause menu, overhauling the tutorial scene, and so many other features and reworks and bug fixes that I just can't talk about in this video, because it would make the video take even longer to make, and it's already been almost 3 months since my last video. And all of this is being worked on a device that I have never made an application for. With that all being said, I am not done with the Android port just yet. I'm also not going to be making any release dates until I'm 100% certain that I can make that deadline. So today, I wanted to give you a glimpse of what I have been working on. How I had to make some tough decisions on Little Cherry's Tree, having to conquer challenges I've never faced until now, starting to expand my knowledge with Android development, and surprisingly enough, catching the attention of a talented composer who acts to help make some amazing music for the game. I swear this video better not be 15 minutes long. Welcome to part 4 of the development of Little Cherry's Tree. So like I said before, I'm not done with the Android port just yet, so I can't really show everything I have in the game right now, because there are some things that are being worked on, may get removed later on, or are just straight up broken. I honestly wanted to wait to make this devlog once I got everything done, because I like letting people get their hands on the latest build and get their feedback. Believe it or not, one of my favorite things as a game developer is letting people play the games I create and seeing them get enjoyment out of it. But I can't do that at the moment, unfortunately, because there's just so much left to be done. So unfortunately, there won't be a new build for this week on any version of Little Cherry's Tree. I hope you guys can understand. But with that all being said, let's talk about what I already have done. So one of the biggest questions I kept asking myself was, can I get Little Cherry's Tree to work on mobile? Sure, the game on surface looks like it would be a perfect mobile game. Heck, the PC version already looks like it was a ported mobile game. However, trying to port Little Cherry's Tree in practice is a whole nother story. Up until now, you were required to use a keyboard or controller to move around the player and shoot water, and the layout for the game was very straightforward and intuitive. However, trying to get this to work on phones, well, there aren't any buttons. So I had to brainstorm some other alternatives. And after some thinking, I came up with 2 potential control layouts that I thought could actually work. The first one was gyro controls. I was thinking having the player move around by rotating their phone and shooting by tapping the screen. What's good about this layout is that you could play it one-handed. A lot of successful mobile games use a one-handed scheme. The few games I actually play on my phone are typically with one-handed controls. But the drawback to using gyro controls is that they're not the most reliable way to play a game. Tilting your phone could also be very disorienting for some people. On the other hand, I could just use virtual buttons to control the player, with an analog stick moving left and right, and a button to shoot water. What's great about using this control scheme is that you don't have to worry about tilting your phone having a perfect view of the game, minus the buttons that are stuck on screen. They're also way more reliable than using gyro controls. Virtual buttons, however, have the drawback of requiring more attention on the game, which is something that mobile games try to avoid. While mobile games have definitely gotten more advanced, the majority of players are on the more casual side, which isn't a bad thing, it's just how the market is. So it's best to avoid overcomplicating things. But since Little Cherry's Tree is a very simplistic game in nature, it's not that big of a drawback. After a lot of thinking between these 2 layouts, I decided just to go for the virtual button controls. Since the game isn't very complicated in and of itself, it also allows the player to be in more control, which is very important for any game. I do want to look at gyro controls later in development though, probably after the launch, letting the player be able to toggle either the virtual buttons or the gyro controls. It's good to have options. But for the launch, I think it's good to have the best controls possible, so I'm going to stick with the virtual buttons. Thankfully, creating the virtual buttons wasn't that hard to do. It only took like not even an hour after looking at the API and some tutorials. And I think the results are pretty good, and I think it'll work really well on the Android phone. Oh, wait, that's right, I gotta port this to Android. So the best way I can possibly describe my experience with porting Little Cherry's Tree to Android is to just show you a screenshot of some error codes and a JPEG of my face being slammed on a keyboard. I honestly thought exporting the game wouldn't be so different between porting it to other platforms. Sure, I've dealt with some individual quirks here and there, but nothing that major, and nothing that could possibly prepare me for what I was about to deal with. I looked at a few tutorials on how to export to Android. I found out that I had to install Android Studio on my computer and enable developer mode on my phone for debugging purposes. It wasn't so hard to do. The hard part was actually getting the game to work. One of the many issues I was having when exporting was getting the custom build switch to work. This switch allowed custom plugins to work when exporting, because without that, the app just crashes. But for some reason, it just wasn't working for me, and I couldn't figure out the issue for the life of me. So I just decided to just turn it off. I mean, I don't have any plugins, and it's not like I'm going to be using any for the project. Once I temporarily solved that issue, I finally got the export to work. I installed the game on my phone, and oh my god, I actually got a game to work on my phone! I know this isn't like the biggest thing in the world, but from someone just 2 years ago, we're just making games with grumpy squares and a debugger, to now finally making a functional game on a phone, it's so awesome. Well, after gushing to myself for 5 hours, I decided to fix some bugs that have been plaguing the game from the very start. Some were barely noticeable, while others were obviously unintended. And while there are still some things that need to be worked on, I did my best to polish as much as I can right now. While I was testing the game on my phone, I noticed that there was no way to pause the game whenever I would need to take a break. Now, anyone would think that would be something very obvious to add to the game, but anyone who knows me knows I completely forget the obvious. So I went to making a pause button. And since I was creating UI elements, I decided to overhaul the tutorial in the game. Creating a tutorial scene was the last thing I worked on for the original Game Jam build, so it obviously looks rushed and not that professional. So I decided to overhaul the entire thing. And it's probably obvious right now that it is night and day the quality of this tutorial scene compared to the original. The thing that I'm most proud of is that I was able to make this all in one scene. There is no transitioning to different scenes whatsoever. However, this one scene took 3 brutal days to finish, just because of how complex I wanted to make it. Granted, I wasn't able to work on it too much around this time, but it was so tedious trying to get the page system, creating a new little cherry object that was exclusive for the tutorial, making him match the UI elements and not desyncing after 3 loops. It was just so boring and so tedious. However, during these 3 days, something special actually happened. While I was chilling at my local restaurant, I received a message on my Instagram from a person named Cletus Lupus. I am so sorry if I butchered that. I really tried my best. He was offering to actually make music for me. Now, this honestly isn't the first time someone has offered to work on stuff for me, but I never really follow up on them because I am a broke college student during troubling times. But since I was one of the first people he asked, he'd offer to work on the music for free. And just like every other broke college student, I like free stuff. So after a long conversation making sure everything was legit and I didn't have to worry about any legal issues, I requested of him to make 3 songs, one for the tutorial, one for an extras mode which would have the credits and other things, and one scene that I cannot talk about at the moment because it is not finished yet. And surprisingly enough, I received music from him the upcoming days, and oh god, the music's so good! I was shocked at not only the quality of the music he provided, but the fact that he was able to implement my leitmotif that I added to the previous 2 songs I've made so well. Granted, I did specifically ask for him to do that, but he was able to pick it up by ear. I didn't give him any sheet music whatsoever. I was really impressed, and I can't wait for everyone to hear it in the game. Wait, what was I talking about again? Oh yeah, the tutorial. I was able to finish it the day before Cletus sent the music over to me, so I only just had to plop in the music in the scene and call it a day. But once that was done, I had a sleek, clean, professional looking... Oh my god, I just love how this tutorial turned out. And the music just makes it pop even more. Even though I've talked about how boring and frustrating this process was, I think the results were totally worth it. And once that was all finished, it was time to implement ads. Come on, that's just rude. I know personally that ads are annoying, especially when the majority of the game is just ads. But I do want to make some money off the Android port so I could cover the $100+ fee for the iOS port. Again, this game has 0 budget, so I need to make some profit. But of course, I respect everyone's time and I don't want to diminish the quality of the game. So my plan was to make ads come up in 2 different scenarios. Once you die in the game, you have the option to either play again or revive yourself by watching an ad. But if you don't revive yourself after a few games, an ad will just play. I think this is probably the most fair way to implement ads and not hurt the quality of Little Cherry's tree. Now, in order to implement ads into the game, I needed to integrate AdMob into Godot. It's pretty much the system that allows ads to be played. So I installed the plugin, created an AdMob account, and I figured I might as well just create a Google Play console account while I was at it. The process was really straightforward and I didn't have any— It's just $25?! Okay, so Little Cherry Street now has a budget of $25. I better make a return on investment, I swear to God. Anyway, I decided to create a little test scene to have an ad pop up when I pressed on Little Cherry's face, and I began to export the project and... So, remember when I said that custom build switch is exclusively for allowing plugins to work? Yeah, it's time to get custom builds to work. Okay, all jokes aside, this was hard. It was so frustrating to get custom plugins to work. I did so much research trying to figure out this issue, having to go through 20 pages of Google searches. I am not even kidding about that. I've spent countless hours trying to look at error logs, trying to understand the issue, and having no idea on how to fix it. I created multiple test projects and tried to find any correlation with the issue, but no matter what I did, I could not figure out the issue. But then, the game development gods brought me to this Reddit post by Brave Evidence that talked about the exact same issues I was having, and then I found out the problem wasn't even solved. Great. But then, the game development gods sent how do you say your name? To tell me thou shalt not use spaces in thy projects, and the issue was finally resolved. God bless you and AI Masti for your words of wisdom. So now everything works. After 2 weeks of trial and error and hours of debugging, I finally got to see this.
This is a rewarded video test ad. Here comes the reward callback.
Magnificent. That was honestly the worst. I was honestly afraid that this project would just be unfixable because there is very little documentation on Android development for Godot. I mean, there are some great YouTubers that have provided great guides for Android development, but those are few and far between. Thank God for the Godot subreddit because I would have never figured out this issue if it wasn't for those people. But, you know what? That doesn't matter now. The export issue is finally resolved, and there is no way anything could get worse from here. Hey, I know this is going to be a bit more of a casual type outro. I've never really done something like this before, but it doesn't matter. I just want to thank you all for watching, and I know it's a bit disappointing that there are no new releases this time, and I'm honestly really sorry for that. But there's still so much to be done, and I need to add a lot more polish before I'm comfortable on making it presentable. But I am very thankful for everyone's patience. For not only Little Cherry's tree, but this devlog. I really didn't think it would take this long to make it, but there's just been so much that has been coming up, and it doesn't help that I'm starting my junior year of college. But since I don't really have any release at the moment, I want to take this moment to thank you all for 100 subscribers. I honestly can't believe we reached this amazing milestone, especially as fast as we did. There's no way I could perfectly describe how happy I was when I woke up one morning and saw that I had 100 subscribers. It is honestly really shocking to me that we have come this far already. And I want to thank every single one of you for motivating me to not only continue to work on the project, but improve as a game developer. I seriously couldn't ask for a better community. Like I said before, you guys deserve nothing but the best. And I want to make sure that Little Cherry Street is as good as it can be. One more thing I want to talk about is my Kofi page. I know it's kind of jacked up that I'm advertising my donations page after all that, but I don't know where else to put this. For those who don't know, Kofi is a donation site that helps financially support your favorite creators. Think of Patreon, but you don't have to pay a monthly subscription if you don't want to. A good chunk of people watching are waiting for the iOS port to be in development, and a lot of my friends and family have said they can't wait to play my game when it comes on iPhone. And I do plan on releasing it sometime after the Android port, but not only will it take a much longer time to develop, since I don't have an iOS device at the moment, putting games on the App Store costs a lot more than the Google Play Store, which is where Kofi comes in. Donations from Kofi help speed up production of Little Cherry Street, since Little Cherry Street only has a budget of $25. I just recently bought a new tool to help add custom colors into the game, so I don't have to worry about coding custom palettes myself. And this is all thanks to the donations I've already received. If you have a few dollars to spare and want to help with production, a link to my Kofi is in the description. It is not needed at all to donate, but any money that I do receive is greatly appreciated. Also, if you haven't already, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help get the word out. Once again, thank you all for your support and helping me reach 100 subscribers. It's honestly still surreal to me that we've come this far. And with that all being said, take care, comb your hair, and I'll see you guys later.